Hello. This is prompted by a conversation with the Alex Jones cult on during a commentary on, I think it was Go Green 18's video. It'll be linked below. Now, this is going to go long, so I'm going to divide it into three sections. The first section is, why do I make atheist videos and argue with conservative Christians? The second is why the Bible is a piss-poor moral guide. And third will be why religion isn't comforting and reason and rationalism is. Now, I agree with Doug Stanhope. Religion is a vice. A vice is anything that provides pleasure with no benefit, no physical benefit whatsoever. Now, vices become dangerous when they overtake your personality and they start to affect others around you and society at large. Now, to make this simpler, religious people like dichotomies. All right? There's a simpler way for them to handle the world. It's for sort of the same reason that they chop up baby food. It's easier to digest. All right? So I'm going to put this in a good and bad scenario. All right? Sex, if you like sex, most of us do, that's good. If you like to rape, that's bad. If you like to smoke, that's good. If it fucks up my breathing, it's bad. Drinking, good. Drinking and driving and killing someone, bad. If you can take drugs and somehow manage your habit, good. If you can't, bad. Church and prayer, good. Holding our species back by limiting scientific advancement and passing legislation that restricts other people's rights while promoting your own rights and calling it freedom, that's bad. And by bad, I mean go fuck yourself. And at this point, you might be asking, why is he so angry? Well, a little bit of background is in order. Now, ever since I was a little kid, I've always kind of been interested in religion. Christianity specifically, because that's what I grew up with. Also, Greek and Egyptian mythology, because I like a good story. I liked Easter because you got candy. Christmas was good because you had Santa Claus. I was a pretty good kid, and if you're good, you get presents. In fact, I think that Santa's a gateway drug to Jesus. You know, if you follow the rules, you'll get a present. Same thing. Now, I grew up Methodist. And Methodist is, at least in my experience, the most mild form of Christianity you can get. But I went to a Catholic-run summer camp. I wasn't molested, and the nuns were pretty nice. But I would go to church services, and I noticed that the Catholic services were very different from the Methodist services. Now, I was lucky enough to not to have to go to church every Sunday. I'd only go on Easter with my grandparents. So, but still, I could see a difference there. Now, our downstairs neighbor was Mormon. She'd babysit me, and every so often, I'd go to one of her religious services. Again, confusing. Same book, different interpretation. And then there's my dad. Now, my mom divorced my dad early on. Didn't know him for most of my life at that point. He found Jesus and got his life together. So he reconnected with me when I was like 11 or 12. All right, that's a hilarious story. He found out I was into science fiction and Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. He bought me a whole bunch of Dungeons and Dragons books for my birthday. Yeah, for my birthday. And then when he went back to Arizona, oh God, what was it? Like a couple months later, he sent me this tape explaining the evils of Dungeons and Dragons. Now, I played them up until I grew out of them, but I never like went to Satan. So I think that may have been bullshit. So that is kind of where my distaste for religion started. Because if you had an English book, you studied the English book, you took the English test, there were only certain answers, right answers and wrong answers. Science, same thing. History, same thing. civics, which I think sadly is missing from most schools this time now, it's the same thing. You answer the right, you give the right answers, you get a good score on the test. Now, religion or any holy book, whether it's the Bible or the Quran, is considered to be a moral authority, a guidebook for behavior. So my question is, why is there all this interpretation involved? The only time you see interpretation is when you're talking about something that is creative, something that people create and can have their own interpretations on. Now, that distaste for religion grew further. See, I grew up in the 80s, and around then you had groups like the PMRC and Focus on the Family, the Christian Jihad Against Fun. PMRC was mostly music and music videos. Focus on the Family was mostly, everything else. Now, I know what you're thinking. The Tipper Gore, Democrat, liberal. Believe me, if that bitch tripped on her high heels and swung slightly forward to the right, she'd dump into Phyllis Schlafly. Okay? Believe me, this woman is not a liberal. Alright, for one thing, James Baker's wife, conservative Christian, was also part of the PMRC. A literature was written by Reverend Jeff Ling. They got support from the 700 Club. Tipper's book was promoted through the Religious Booksellers Convention. And also, their main targets were any kind of sexual material, especially gay, violence, and the occult. In fact, in one of their pamphlets, the Star of David was listed as an occult symbol. Later, due to outcry, they took it out. Now, are these things that a liberal would really complain about, especially the liberal caricature presented on places like Fox News? And then it built. You had your corrupt preachers, Jim and Tammy, Popoff, Swaggart. You had creationists injecting their bullshit into science class where it doesn't belong, child molesting priests where the church would hide their activities and move them around so no one would notice, Timothy McVeigh, and then 9/11. Now, you might be asking, wait a minute, wasn't that Muslims? Yes, it was. That's the thing. It's bad enough we have religious assholes in this country fucking stuff up. Now we're importing them. Radical Muslims and radical Christians have certain things in common. They're anti-gay, anti-science, and anti-woman. Now, if you disagree with the anti-woman thing, just look at Michelle Bachmann, alright? She follows what her husband says, and she went into politics because of what her husband says. I think she went into a career because of that. I also remember, can't remember the name of the group, that they used to have these big stadium things where it was about husbands being responsible fathers, but it was actually about, again, men ruling the household. Now, I think I'm right on this, that women are separate individuals. They get to decide their own destiny. When you get married, it's a partnership. That's how my marriage works. And you kind of decide things together. There shouldn't be a fucking boss in a marriage. Alright, there should be division of labor. That works, it's more efficient, and it's fair to everybody. Now, another thing. Christians, and Muslims, they want to convert everyone. Christians want to make everyone Christian, especially the radical Christians. Muslims want to make everyone Muslims, especially the radical Muslims. Now, if you are trying to take over the world, you don't worship a kind and loving God. You worship Dr. Doom. Now, I don't take that shit from Nazis. I don't take that shit from communists. And I will not take that shit from any religious group. Now, speaking of conversion, I have gotten Bible tracts, like Watchtower, that sort of thing, left on my porch. I see Bible tracts basically in every public place that I go. In my mailbox, I get, churches begging for money and saying I'm going to go to hell if I don't immediately repent. In my inbox, I get Christian Singles bullshit and other bullshit from religion that I would really rather not have. Let's see, I've had a couple of times I've had religious people knocking on my door wanting me to accept Jesus in my life. What else? Oh yeah, I had a Mormon kid try to convert me when I was on a bus. You know what it's like being stuck with someone who's trying to convert you? I mean, you in your after school specials, you'll always see, like, don't bow to peer pressure. It's the same thing. In fact, actually, it's worse. It's spamming. All of that attempts to convert people, it's spam. Stop spamming my life. As an atheist, I see that we have one chance at life. Stop wasting mine. My old job was answering calls, emails, and letters for a major food company. All right, and then this is another way that religious people have had a negative impact on my life. Now, we would get calls and letters and emails and all that from tons of different groups. Now, if you added up the health Nazis, the allergen fanatics, the environmental nuts, and the animal rights activists, that would not even come close to the whole email we would get. We'd get tracts in the mail. We would get people wanting us to convert, which, if you look at the way the letter was written, it looks like they were asking for a ransom or something. Let's see. The company gave money to the gay games. We were inundated with religious people talking about how amoral and immoral, rather, the gay lifestyle was. I got one guy who claimed to be a reverend who started going into detail about gay sex, hoping he would horrify me. Now, I wasn't offended. I just wanted this shitbird off my phone. So, what I did was I said, "Sir, I'd really rather not hear that." And then he said, "Well, you should." Wow. Christian priests and sexual confusion go together. Now, another one was, a while back, we had this commercial with angels in it. And this woman wrote us a letter, and she complained that our advertising staff didn't do enough research. And this is burned in my mind, and I'll never forget this. She said, "You know zilch, zip, nada about angelic beings. How do you research this stuff?" What did she want in the commercial? Fucking Enochian? Again, wanting other people to kowtow to their beliefs. And also, religion hampers free inquiry. Now, science changes its mind when more info becomes available. What we know about the natural world is always being discovered and rewritten. Now, science is not about what's 100% provable. There's no such thing. You can never be 100% sure of anything. That's why innocent people get convicted sometimes. All right? But science is about what is the most provable. Now, religious people got used to the heliocentric theory, the fact that our planet's round, the fact that we are one planet among many, and some of those planets may be populated by other species. Now, my question is, does each species get its own Jesus? God has supposedly had chosen people on this earth, the Jews. Does each planet get their own chosen people, or are we really that special? Now, the big problem about this is you can accept all that, but you don't accept evolution. And again, not 100% provable, just the most provable. Honestly, I like science, but I am in no way, shape, or form an expert. If you want to go watch and learn more from people that know more than I do, I would recommend Potholer54's videos, Wildwood Claire 1's videos, and anything by Thunderfoot. Now, you may see some sarcasm on them, and if you're a Christian and it bothers you, just cowboy up. You'll learn something. And they're going to be linked below. Now, Christians also draft legislation that tries to jibe with their holy horse shit and prevent any legislation that goes against their holy horse shit. And again, they call this freedom. See, they don't want freedom for all of us, just freedom for them. Now, if the big thing about this is that people say, well, America was founded on the principles of Christianity. Now, I would dispute that. And if you disagree with me, do me a favor. Open up your Bible, go to Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, and compare them to our Constitution. If you don't have time to do that, just go to the Bill of Rights and compare it with the Ten Commandments. You'll learn something. Now, what I've seen in the Bible shows the Christian God to be capricious and amoral. Now, we need to start removing the capricious and immoral laws, not adding to them. Now, that's also going to be the subject of one of my later videos. Now, the other thing that scares the shit out of me is politicians that claim that God told them to run, and then religious people being gullible enough to vote for them. Now, my question is, how do you tell the God voice in your head from the other voices in your head? If you have voices telling you to do things, I don't want your crazy ass near nuclear launch codes. So, please don't vote for these lunatics. In fact, most likely, they don't really believe they hear the voice of God. They're just trying to bullshit you. And believe me, conservative Christians are one gullible consumer base. They'll buy anything. I remember this one video preacher is selling these little prayer cloths for a ton of money. Can't remember his name. Now, the final thing is that Christians like to walk in the footsteps of their Savior by acting like martyrs. Now, you're not being crucified, you're just acting like whiny little shits. If there's no comparison between a gay guy getting beaten up because he's gay and you being prevented from excluding gays from certain groups. If someone's trying out for a job, it shouldn't depend on what their sexual orientation is, etc., etc., etc. We've all read the HR handbook, so you know what I'm talking about. Okay, that's not taking away your rights, that's giving rights to somebody else. If other religious symbols are put up with your religious symbols, that's not taking away your rights again. It's giving other people rights. Or, considering that schools are federally funded institutions, maybe the religious stuff shouldn't be there at all. The way I look at it is this. Praying is like taking a shit. Alright? If you're not near a church, wait to do it till you get home. Okay? Same thing with going to the bathroom. If you're not near a bathroom, don't take a dump in the street. Wait till you go home. It's just polite. Now, you also force faith into science class, where it does not belong. Unlike chocolate and peanut butter, the supernatural and science, they taste like shit together. Now, science has a long history of self-examination and self-correction. Replacing what we think we know with new things that we've discovered. Religion, on the other hand, is the muttering of charismatic primitives that's gone through multiple translations and a shifting canon. And then religious people will hold up their book and say, this is the truth. It's better than science because it's unchangeable. Now, human beings have changed religions throughout our existence. From primitive Venus worship to the Egyptians, to the Greeks, Romans, you name it. These are people who were devout, who worshipped their gods. And then their gods just drifted away. Now they're just stories. Now I think people will always need religion in their lives. Okay, certain people will need religion in their lives. It's a psychological thing. It's fear of death, fear of disorder, fear of, well, it's kind of like needing a daddy still. Now, a lot of times you'll get religious people patronizingly say, oh, I feel sorry for you. You don't have God. Well, I feel sorry for you because you still have an imaginary friend. You still fear monsters under the bed. And you're still looking for a daddy to tell you what to do and punish you if you don't do that. Most of us, a lot of people grow out of that shit. Maybe you should too. But again, if religion comforts you, though honestly, don't know why anyone would find that comforting, fine. Just keep it to yourself, like any other vice. Alright? It's like container laws. You can drink in a bar. Some places, if you have an open container and you're just chucking them back, then, the police might stop you. Then again, if you go into a bar and you're drunk, the bartender will tell you when you've had enough. Priests don't do that. It's not in their best interest. Now, finally, intolerance is hating that which has no effect on you. Hating that which does harm you, that requires self-defense. You try to force religion into science class. You get legislation drafted limiting scientific research. You spread what amounts to disinformation, and you wonder why we're falling behind industrialized nations scientifically. Religion has a detrimental effect on my country, both socially and economically, because we can't compete anymore with other countries because we don't have the level, our kids don't have the level of knowledge that kids in other countries, other industrialized nations do. And it affects our economy. Now, you affect my life personally with your nonsense, and that is why I am compelled to make videos and dispute you when you're wrong. Now, I'd like to say one final thing. Just one thought to leave you with. One night, I had a dream. I dreamt I was walking along a beach. Across the sky flashed scenes from my life. When the last scene flashed before me, I noticed that sometimes there were many footprints behind me of family and friends who helped me when I needed it. But sometimes, during my lowest and saddest times, I noticed only one set of footprints. I didn't need to wonder at this. I arrived here on my own 2 feet, and at no time did I stoop to kneel. Thank you.